Well, hello. This is Al Williamson. I'm with Landlord.com, and I wanted to share my journey so far, my journey of ascending a two-bedroom, one-bath apartment unit that I've been working on. So here's the summary of how you can possibly ascend your rental as well. Let's talk about that. And for those who don't know me or have never met me in real life, I'm a landlord for more than 20 years. I am down to just 9 units now. 8 of those are residential, and 5 of those are short-term or flexible-term units. I'm a civil engineer, a couple of engineering degrees. I'm a community advocate. That's a big part of me, working on making sure landlords are a benefit to their communities and not a drain on their communities. And I'm an ancillary income specialist, meaning I look for ways and document ways landlords can increase their income by doing other things than just collect rent. And as you can see, I am the apple of three people's eyes. That's my family. I'm a big old family man. I want to share with you a story of when I had to pull over. I was driving to work. I had to pull over because I was thinking about how I had achieved this goal, and all these ideas were just coming to me. It was just left and right, 100 miles per hour. I just needed some time to write it all down. So I pulled I pulled over and I had to dig through my glove compartment trying to find something to write with, and ended up with a napkin and a crayon, and that was just enough. So I didn't want to lose it. I didn't want to lose the ideas. So I had just achieved the goal of generating enough ancillary income, the side income, to pay my mortgage for my 8 unit building. I ended up with over $1,800 of ancillary income. And I was sorting it out. I was trying to figure out what the things I was doing that was giving the biggest amount of return. What was the 20% giving me the 80% return? So I jotted down a bunch of thoughts and I ended up drawing these two boxes. And because I realized there was really two mechanisms at play. And in those boxes, I wrote, big cliffhanger, I'm not going to tell you just yet. Let me first tell you the backstory of how I got to this place, how I achieved these goals. It was in 2008. Everything was falling apart, and I was decided something had to change. I was laid off from my nonprofit job I was working at the time, doing some inner city redevelopment work, and my tenants were getting laid off as well. In fact, all of Sacramento, California, where we are, where I am, was just in a free fall. People were losing their jobs or being underemployed left and right. So it wasn't as if I could kick out my tenants and replace them. The whole city was in peril. It's having a hard time. And but that was really the straw that broke the camel's back, because my wife, she had asked me just a little while ago before that, why couldn't we take longer vacations? We had all this rental property, she said. And I had to confess that I was using some of my engineering income to subsidize our rentals because the maintenance and different things were going on. They weren't completely self-sustained and generating money for us. And that was a tough conversation to have. I was a great landlord. We were doing everything right. We were following all the rules, but we still weren't enjoying this huge cash flow that we had signed up for. So I knew I had to make a change, I had to figure this out, how to do things differently. We had a bunch of rentals, and that's the dirty secret. You can have a bunch of rentals, but if they're bringing in the same amount that you're spending, then you don't feel rich at all. You feel like you're just staying afloat and essentially kind of counting down until you pay off your mortgage before you could feel rich. So there had to be a different way. So I created all these and collected all these ancillary income ideas and ended up writing this book, 40 Ways. I just document everything, categorize them, and there it is for a reference. But I don't want to talk about that today. I want to talk about those two boxes. Let's get to that. In those boxes, I wrote market switching and turbocharging, which more related to the ancillary income. But by switching markets gave me more opportunities to add on these ancillary income ideas. By staying with landlording, there's not that many ancillary income ideas, but as you leave traditional landlording and move away from it, then there's a lot more ancillary income ideas and profit centers that you can tack on. Let's get right into it. I want to share with you what I did. So I started with this 2-bed, 1-bath apartment, and I decided to experiment with it. It was renting for $850, and really the net we assigned the net was $200 per month for this. And as I was doing my research, I remember coming across Nick Scadoti's example and ideas of housing by the slice. He tells the story of being in at a fair and standing in line for pizza and seeing that this pizza would sell the whole pizza he could buy for $16, but they were selling by the slice for $4. So he did the math and he said, well, 4 times 8 pieces is 32, whereas they were selling it for 16 for a whole. Man, I like this concept of just selling people a slice that they can afford and that they're willing to put out. So he applied that principle to his rental housing and started renting rooms to people who had small incomes, people that were on government assistance or in some social program, and who had a caseworker. So he would find, say, veterans, for example, that maybe have a caseworker with them, and he put them in rent rooms to them so that they could afford to live comfortably, and the caseworker could easily monitor them. So he did that, and he was able to triple his income. Well, I did it for this apartment. I started renting rooms out to medical students, again, staying with the same peer group, and was able to do 2.3 times my net by renting each room to a medical student, charging them $630 per room per month. So that was good. I was meeting people from all over the world. It was very enjoyable. I was helping people that were having a hard time, but these medical students were price sensitive because they were all on loans and things like that. So that was pretty much the maximum I was going to be able to do. So I decided to switch markets again. I had always wanted to experiment with Airbnb. I was a big user myself. I really didn't want to do that much more hosting. I was hosting occasionally, but I didn't want to do much hosting because people's expectations were different. When I stayed with people, they would bring me cookies, they would carry my luggage and do all kinds of great stuff for me. But as a landlord, I just did not want to do that for the guests. So it wasn't until this business travel ready category came out in 2015 that I really jumped on board with it, because it was set up more for landlords and also to cater just to business travelers who didn't want any roommates. They wanted the entire place to themselves. So I was all into that. My research was telling me that I could get about close to $1,500 for my apartment, my 2-bed, 1-bath, if I put it on Airbnb. So that's what I did. But a little bit more about Airbnb. Let's compare it to the Marriott. The Marriott has 1.1 million rooms under management. They are the largest corporate hotel chain on earth, and they're in 101 countries right now. So they're the big boys. But when we contrast that to Airbnb, they have 1.5 million rooms under management. So they are even larger than the largest hotel on earth, and they are in 191 countries. So they have more penetration than the Marriott. So you can see what all the tension and all the hubbub is about. These guys who came on, started in 2007, surpassed the largest hotel chain on earth. So they definitely have the reach. You definitely want to check out Airbnb because it gives you're able to leverage their penetration and their marketing. So anyway, I switched to Airbnb and I was able to increase my net by 3.3 times what a typical landlord was making. So I was able to make like $1,460 or so. So it came out to be about $670 more, or at least that was my net. So I was doing pretty good. But I had slowly evolved with Airbnb to a monthly stay. So it's just catering to people who want to stay a month at a time. So I fall into a traditional landlord month to month category. so people understood that. But I was using Airbnb to fill my month-to-month rentals. So that's how I was operating. But so when I was out there with all that market exposure, I started getting inquiries from traveling nurses. Sacramento happens to be a large traveling nurse destination, and these guys are great. They stayed 3 months at a time. And since cleaning costs were really the things that eat the most of my profits, I could spread that over 3 months instead of each month. So it was definitely giving me a larger net because my expenses were going down. I only had to turn the unit every 3 months. So because of that, I was able to increase my net 5.3 times for the same unit. So my net is $1,000 more for the same unit by ascending how I use the property. By getting away from being a traditional landlord, I can make a sizable increase in my net income. So that's what I want to point out to all of you. And oh, here's an email saying I was, quoting a guy. It's the first time I quoted $1,876 for a 30-day stays. I'm hedging towards $1,900 and $2,000 now. So securing that. I can hear a lot of people saying already, hey, this is never going to work. That's a lot of self-talk. I've had it myself. I show this to people and they start coming up with excuses of why it won't work for them. But this works. One form of this from peer-to-peer housing works even in the most crime-ridden areas, and with the lowest income people, you can always rent per room, do housing by a slice. That's always works. And if your neighborhood's a little bit better, you can always move it towards Airbnb. That's been, it's a successful business model. You can move towards some form of month-to-month housing. You can do it. And in fact, my next later on this week, I'll put together some case studies of people who are doing it that I've met and have worked with. Under all kinds of circumstances, they're able to transcend how they use their units and make quite a bit more money. So let's never work. It'll never work attitude. Let's talk about that. So I've been working at this for a long time now, trying to get to this point where I have all the resources available to share and the proof and the case studies, and I'm finally there. So I feel like I have a certain amount of authority now. And with that authority, I can give you the power, I can give you permission to be bigger than a landlord if you want, be much larger, be much more profitable than a traditional landlord, to leave the Craigslist pursuit of market rents and start competing against extended stay hotels and higher end hotels, going after that money instead of competing with landlords. So if you accepted with the power invested in me, I am giving you the power. You can change now, okay? You got permission to change. Hey, I want to hear what you think of this. If you like these type of videos, leave some comments below and tell me what you think about ascending. If you're interested in that, hearing more about that, or if you have any questions, let's hear from you. I want this to be more of a dialogue. So that's why I'm doing these videos. All right. Hey, thank you. I'll talk to you later on.